What's going on, you guys? Paul here with Paul's Performance, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we have something special for you guys, especially the TDI community. We're going to be installing this bundle of wires. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Well, what's that? That's a good question. This is what the TDI community, at least, wants to call an Evry Mod. To some people, this is God's saving grace to your car to give you more power, to make it to where if you wanted to pull out in front of someone's grandma in their Buick Regal, you could possibly get away with it, but probably not. So what this thing is, this right here is actually a pretty nice kit. This come off of eBay. It was pre-built. I did not build this harness. You can build it fairly easily yourself. For $100, you can buy this harness right here, which is what Samuel behind the camera did just to make it a lot easier. It comes with the T connector for your injection pump, your resistor control here, and your on-off switch, and it has a disconnect here to make it easier to run through the firewall. So this makes the whole thing a lot easier without having to do any wiring. Just plug and play and mount the switch. What this thing is going to do is you're going to plug it into your injection pump. You're going to tee it off. As you can see, you have your T connector here. Then you're going to run your switch up into the dash. These will be mounted in the dash for your controls. What this does is this messes with the injection quantity of the injection pump. In other terms, it's not going to affect the timing of it. It's just going to affect the amount of fuel that's going to be injected. But once you start adjusting this dial, which, like I said, this is a resistor dial, so the resistance goes higher and lower. When you turn this dial, that's going to affect the injection quantity of the car, and it's going to dump more fuel or less fuel depending on where you put this at, which in turn means more power. This right here can be a good mod. It's a fairly cheap mod to do compared to tuning the car. In my opinion, as a mechanic, this is kind of a sketchier way to get power out of your car rather than getting like a Malone tune put on the car, because this right here seems like something that could possibly hurt something. It probably won't. I mean, there's not many people out there I've seen with anything bad, and I mean, what it's doing is fine, but it depends on who the controller of this is whether or not it could, you know, mess something up. So just be careful with this. Like I said, read up on it, read up on how to control it and get it into the right setting, just so you don't have the possibility of messing it up. So anyways, I'm going to show you guys how we're going to install this. Like I said, I'll put a link in the description for this kit if you guys want to buy it, because this kit will make it a lot easier. So in this kit, we have it fully assembled here. We're going to come right here to our two switches that will be inside, and there's an aux cord connection. We're going to unplug that. I'm going to take this, I'm going to sling that inside the car because that's where it's going to go, and then we're going to take this end of the aux cord and try to get it through the firewall. What I've done, I have my pass-through. I have a snap-on pass-through tool that makes it a lot easier to get through, but I'm running it right beside this harness that runs through the firewall. So this engine harness that runs straight through the firewall, I'm running it right beside that. You don't have to do it that way if you want to drill a hole. There's probably some other places here you can find, but that's where I'm going. So I'm going to get that inserted, pull it through the inside, and then I'll show you the connection under the hood, and then we'll go inside and mount our switches. So we got our wire shot through, waiting on the inside. So now I'm going to do the connection under the hood. Come right here. We have our engine cover off, which we already had it off for other things, but here's our injection connector. It'll be popped down in this little bracket. You'll just take it and wiggle it up and wiggle it out of that bracket there, and then we're going to open this little tab here and unplug. I said we was. We're going to unplug this connection. I don't have this routed up yet, but once I get this plugged in, I'm going to clean up this wiring, get it nice and mounted up and hidden out of the way. So once you have that unplugged, you're going to install this T-harness back in its place like so. Boom. And I'm going to mount this connector back on that side, and now we have our T-harness installed here. And now I'm just going to clean this wiring up, route it around here, get it zip tied up, that way it's not hitting anything, and then we're done under the hood here. So like I said, cleaning up the wiring is up to you how you want to do it. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do that off camera, because like I said, it's just routing, getting it cleaned up to where it's not going to hit or rub anything. We got that part done. Now we're going to go inside, and I'm going to show you the inside part. So we have our side panel out here, and then we have our left side of the dash panel pulled out as well. I think what we're going to do is we're going to try to get our switches mounted in this area here. That way it's not a high chance of legs hitting it, and also easy access to it. But we're going to have to adjust something behind this panel to make room for our switches, because this switch especially is going to have a lot of stuff behind it. So we're going to have to drill that out and create some space in the dash. But I was going to show you, I have my cable here. I'm going to pull my cross through. This would be a good thing for those of you guys who wire up a lot. This snap-on cross through. So I stuck it through on the inside. That way I had a tube, and I was able to just go from the outside and shoot her down, and made it super easy to get through without damaging or having to cut any holes. So now that I have that out, technically all you need to do is plug this in. Now you have the Evry Mod working. Mounting this up is up to you on how you want to do it, what kind of switch. This is the switches it comes with. This one you'll want to leave unless you buy, you know, your own that looks different, but this one is a resistor. This is just an on-off switch, so you could change this out, but mounting them up is up to you. We're going to get it mounted up, and then we'll be right back to show you guys what happens. So we got her completely installed, everything cleaned up. The wiring under the hood, just make sure you run it where it doesn't rub against anything. Zip tie it up really nice. I'm not going to show you that because it's up to you how you run it, but just make sure it's not going to rub through and cause any issues with the wires. We got the inside ran, same thing. Make sure you tie it up nice, and there is the switches. So we got the switch installed. Now we're gonna go through and I'm gonna kind of give you a show around of how to work it. If you gotta adjust it a lot and play with it, like I said, really read up on this before you mess with it. But you're controlling a resistance reading with this gauge. When it's off, the car is at normal, just like it was before. That's what the T-harness is there. It's constantly running normal. Once you turn it on, then your wires that you're teeing off is going to be running through this resistor here. Now when you turn this, that's what's going to make the adjustment of the quantity adjuster to change it up. So all the way to the right, which is like 10 on this particular gauge, is doing nothing. But the more you go down, the more you'll hear the car start to change in tone. And if you go too low, it'll start to give it kind of a low tune, which I know to some of you guys will be sounding good, but low tunes are not exactly good for the vehicle. But the lower you go, the more loopy it gets, and the more fuel you're gonna see come out, black smoke come out of the exhaust. But it most likely, once you get too low, it's either A, gonna cut off, or B, it's gonna start throwing a check engine light on the dash. As you can see, this one's already got the check engine light on. So we're gonna have to find that sweet spot. So we're gonna drive it, try to find that sweet spot to give us that little bit of boost without throwing the check engine light. And that's kind of the same thing you gotta do with your car. So we're gonna go test drive it and see if we can find that spot. All right, guys, so we just got back from the test drive, doing a little bit of tweaking on it, trying to find the sweet spot. Definitely gives you a good amount of power that you can feel. You can see a lot more smoke coming out of the exhaust, but you definitely have to find that sweet spot. I know on a lot of Evry Mods, from what I've read online about this, because like I said, this is the first one I put on, so I'm not an expert on this by any means. From what I've seen online, a lot of people just put in a certain size resistor and it stays that all the time. With this kit, you have this adjustable range of resistance, so you can really find that perfect sweet spot. But you got to be careful because, like I said, if you turn it down too low, the car's going to shut off and you can hear it. But after driving it and messing with it for a little bit, well, this particular potentiometer goes 0 to 10. On this car, being Samuel's car, like I said, the closer you get to 0, the worse, the more fuel it's adding, it seems, but it also will run worse. As soon as I get to 3 on this gauge, the car will start to lope. You don't want to go that low. If you tried to drive it like that, at least after we drove this one, it almost cut off while we were driving. The lowest we got was 3.5 before it started to lope, and it was continuously idling, and the power felt really good and it ran just fine. We could see smoke coming out, but the power felt good. So I would just say, if you get this same kit, just kind of work this with it on until you feel the car skipping. Wherever you feel the car start to lope and skip, turn it up a little bit more until it goes back to a smooth idle, and that's probably your sweet spot, because that's how we found it on this car, and it seems to be a pretty good mod. I'm actually pretty surprised at how good it feels as far as power wise, and as far as smoke, it's now dumping a good amount of black smoke out, which is something that Samuel wanted to add, you know, to the car. He wanted to be able to show that it's a diesel. So if you're looking for more smoke and a little bit more power for a little bit cheaper, this seems to be a pretty good mod. Anyways, that's the Evry Mod. We're gonna wrap it up. We may come back and make a update video further down the road and let you guys know how it's doing on the car. But that's it for today's video. As always, I appreciate you guys watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.